And today we're talking about advocating for outreach. So there's lots of different ways we talk about advocacy, but for the purposes of this conversation, just for simplicity's sake, we're defining it around how we as librarians are focused on or tasked with library outreach efforts, and how we advocate for these programs, materials, as well as budgets and staffs to support them. So really focusing on what you do in your position. I know there's a lot of other things that other types of librarians do and what our library administration does, but we're really interested in what you do. Now, for right now, there's only 3 of us, so this shouldn't be a problem, but in case we do have the rest of the group joining us, if you could please make sure to mute your mic. I think Gary's already doing that. Excellent. When you're not speaking, and what that does is just make sure any background noise doesn't come disrupt the conversation. So, just for the broadcast, if we want to go around real fast before we actually start discussing, reintroduce ourselves. Once again, my name is Anna. I'm the Campus Engagement and Instruction Librarian at Grandview University here in Des Moines, Iowa. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves again.
My name is Kate Schneiderman, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator at Emerson College in Boston.
Okay, and I am Gary Marks. I'm the Reference and Outreach Librarian at William Patterson University in New Jersey.
Brilliant. Welcome to you both. And then I see Gloria has just joined us. Gloria, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself real fast? I don't think we can hear you. Is your mic on? He's still not hearing you. Your microphone is currently muted. It looks like. There you are. You're good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gloria Rhodes, and I'm the Outreach Librarian at San Diego State University.
Excellent. So welcome, everyone. So let's go ahead and dive into our discussion. We do have some discussion points we would like to go over, but it's really all up to you, whatever's most helpful for you. If we find ourselves really delving into one of those particular topics, we can just continue in that vein. So with that focus on advocating for outreach, what talking points, general or specific, do you believe are most important for our stakeholders to know about what library outreach does? So stakeholders can be on campus, off campus, whichever people you deal with. What do our stakeholders need to know?
I think it's really helpful for stakeholders to know like what sort of value they're going to get out of funds or staff time. That's usually what they ask about first, or at least for me, that's what my administrators usually ask me. They're like, what is going to be the return on this investment effectively? So if I can say, I only need X number of dollars and this program will reach 100 people, that's helpful.
Now, do you ever struggle with like quantifiable things are really, really nice? Like, as you say, give me $100, this program will reach 500 people. That would be awesome if that happened. And that's wonderful because I feel that same pressure from our stakeholders. What do you do when the benefit isn't something that you can necessarily say this money reached this many people?
I think we're generally interested in fostering a lot of goodwill. So if I can pitch it as people will see this in the community, and even if they don't respond to it, then it sort of sets us up as being like the sort of place that has, whatever message we're trying to send, that is a welcoming place, that is open to everyone on campus, that sort of thing. That's usually a good sell. But like I also try to pair that with what other assessment I'm going to do. Like having some sort of plan is usually helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of just it's going to be beneficial, I think we really we benefit from the fact that when you think of a library or think of a university, you kind of assume there's going to be a library somewhere. So I think sometimes if you just kind of, and they don't always know what that means, like there's a library, but what does that mean? But if you just say, well, it will benefit the library, students will come to the library more in some general way. I think that's one big strength that we have in our corner, in that I don't think many library administrators or university administrators would say, well, do we need a library though? They might say, does the library need any money? But not usually don't say, well, we don't need a library. Gary, Gloria, what do you think?
Should
Well,
I
I
jump?
think, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Should I go then?
Sure.
Okay. I noticed you weren't muted, so well, I mean, for me, it's a fairly, I mean, I'm in a new position, so the monetary issue hasn't really come up that much. Especially, you know, as the position was created, it was clearly illustrated that this has a zero budget. So anything that I'm going to be asking for in the future is certainly going to have a demonstrated value to not the administrators, and also in working within our budget confines, especially when we've been in a constant array of having to reduce resources and holdings because of negative budgets. So as we have less and less materials, or less and less money to purchase materials and resources, spending money on outreach is obviously a secondary notion. But I've been very cognizant of any outreach efforts that I engage in, particularly in things that are going to involve students and faculty on campus, have embedded assessment measures that I can quantify into both quantitative and qualitative value for when I do have to start presenting those arguments, which I don't see me actually doing until next fiscal budget year, since our requests will probably have to be in March or April. The next few months in this semester and last semester, we're basically setting a foundation for assessment, and then next year I'll be able to build on those and submit some feedback on different programs we've done, different workshops we've done, and you know, basically saying, look, we've seen value, we've seen an increase in these types of things, that the value to the students. Basically, a lot of that in the quantitative and qualitative measures to say, you know, we'd like a budget to work with on some of these things, is clearly one of the things that I'm going to have to go with, you know, moving forward.
Can you talk a bit more about what assessment measures you're currently using?
Sure. I've done a couple of workshops and programs on campus where I've partnered with student groups in designing workshops and programs related to library resources, things that are geared towards you know, final exams, midterm exams, resource tools in the library, study services. You know, we kind of morph into this learning commons during final exam period. So we have you know, writing center and tutoring center and academic services all located in the library at certain times. So I partnered with a couple of student groups, met with them, and had them help design workshops and programs geared on what kind of things they face during final exams. So we actually partnered with IRT to do programming on best practices for students taking online exams in the online platform, because it's one of the things that students are always saying, like, oh, I just get locked out of Blackboard, or when I'm taking an exam, it always does this or that. So we actually just listened to the students and geared our programming towards it. And then when we had the workshop, and we had close to 60 students participate or come and attend on campus, which I mean, we're small mid-size, so that's not bad for us, actually. I had the actual student groups that I partnered with have iPads at the event, and they had peer-to-peer interaction where they asked and I had designed a brief little slider survey for students to take after the program, discussing what things they took away from it, value of it, and measuring each of those using Qualtrics, one of our survey software. So, and it was very simple, 5 or 6 questions that the students would basically just use a slider on an iPad to do ratings, and then also the students who were working with me were able to ask a couple of feedback questions and type them in real quick so we can get some actual qualitative feedback as well. And it actually came out, pretty nice. We had about 21 students actually provide, about 40% of the students who attended actually provided feedback regarding the value of the program. So those are the types of things that as I'm designing workshops and programs and outreach initiatives, especially, and also with our liaison program and stuff like that, I'm building in these assessment measures, as we move along. And with that in mind, as I design everything, I need to, how can I measure this somehow as I'm creating these things?
Excellent.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, am I being enlarged for you all? Can you see me? Okay. And here at State, one of the programs that I participated in as the outreach librarian is our open house. We have an annual, it's called Explore SDSU. And so I highlight the library by having an open house based on the Amazing Race theme. And there are, I selected 5 of our public service points, like our circulation research services. We have a Build It Makerspace Lab, 24/7 copy services area. And so each of those, there were staff and students located to tell them about the services available to them at those stopping points. In the very beginning, when they entered the library, they received like a passport. And if they stopped at each of those stations, they got a stamp on their passport. And after completing the 5, then they were registered to enter a drawing. So we had like a, and also they had an opportunity to, at the very end, to say what the experience was, what they learned from each point, or about the library just in general, their how they felt about, the library as a space and also as a resource to help them in student success and student engagement. And then at the end of the evening, probably the next couple of days, looked at and we did the assessment and drew names, and we rewarded, it was a speaker, and also they got the hot coal, what do you call those things? Cups or whatever. And so we've done that. We also have, during orientations, the library is giving me money to purchase pens and with also a stylus, and we give those out at the tables to students and parents. And we also have a Connect at the SDSU library where we have a handout of our services. We have candy at the table. We have little notepads. We have some of the things students have made in our Build It Makerspace at the table. We have a list of our library subject specialist librarians, or our liaison librarians. And that's basically for our transfer students, because they are the ones who are really into that part of research when they get here in their junior year. So that's some of the things we've had.
Excellent. And how do you talk about those kind of things to the stakeholders involved? Like, obviously we know that students knowing about the library resources is a very important thing. But how do you prove to people maybe outside the library who may not understand us completely?
Well, I guess because I've been here for 15 years in this position, so I actually met with I was the liaison to our student affairs. So I met with the director of our EOP and Summer Bridge early on, and then I am their contact for orientations. The library has always been involved in orientations. We have a table, they call it Information Fair Table, as part of their orientation session as well. So it's just one of those things. I asked, I think it was like my third year, I saw that the library did not have anything in the packets that the students received from the campus about the campus resources. And so I asked if we could have a flyer, and they said yes. So we provide like 7,000 flyers now, like in March, to include. And that's one of the things that's an expense, because they want them to look really professional, so that they're not just copied flyers. Now, what I take out to the table, there are copies of those, because they should already be in the student's flyer, in the student's packet. So these are just extras that I take out for their parents, or sometimes students will take them as well. But it was just a matter of me being proactive in kind of singing the services of the library and how the library can help student success. And I kind of used the language from our campus strategic plan, and kind of work that in with the library strategic plan. And as we're the intellectual hub of the campus, all that good stuff.
That all sounds incredible, all the stuff that you're able to do to reach out to students. Now, I know for my position, we're a very small university. There's only 3 librarians here, and
Oh, wow.
I'm the
Where are you?
I'm at Grandview University in Des Moines.
Okay.
So I handle all the outreach and all the instruction. So
Oh,
very
wow.
busy here. But one challenge I've certainly had is, while I would love to be able to do all those wonderful things you're describing, is I have a $0 budget for outreach. So most of my outreach is, in terms of advocating for library resources, besides talking about them in class, is just going out and walking around students and saying, can't answer questions, you can come to the library if you want to get away from, the student dining hall, which is kind of where they tend to study. And that's really how I do outreach here. So I'm curious, since Gloria has such a wonderful list of things she's able to provide, where does your budget for outreach come from? Does it come from within the library or from outside the library? Is it part of that university strategic plan? What are your different approaches to that?
Me?
Anyone really? You too.
My budget is, I don't, it's not like I receive a list each year. Here, Gloria, here's your budget for outreach. It's not like that. It's just as the need. And like I say, I've done it so much. It's like, can we kind of give something? Can we have giveaways? Can you give me some money? Can you have $500 or something like that? The very first time I asked for money, my dean asked, can you tell me if what you're doing is reaching students? And it was after that, which was about 4 years ago, that I started doing the assessment with the when we had the open house. And that's when I had them to fill out the little at the end, which stations did you participate in, and what did you think about the library? Tell me, And at that point, it was like the first year I presented it to her, I think 200 and some people filled out the assessment, and it was just like they raved about the library. And I have a dean who really is student oriented. I mean, everything in the library is comfortable for students. She seeks the student advice, and pretty much funds are available. Changes are made. So it's not a hard sell for me. It was just, I think she needed to, whoever she got the money from, she needed to have a reason for needing that funding for library, for the outreach position.
Excellent. It's great that you have such a supportive dean.
Very supportive.
Kate and Gary, what are your takes on this, the question of budget?
So my budget is a line item in the library's budget, and I don't actually know how much is in there because it's not all for me. It's also where we get money for food for events, like there's some faculty development events that we do. I think it's also where like printing, like at the print and copy shop happens, and some amount of professional development funds and some other, it's kind of a grab bag. So usually what I do is I just ask. There are certain things that I can kind of count on every year, like my budget for orientation. I write it up at the beginning of the year in the summer, and I send it to my boss and say, this is what I'm thinking of spending. It's X dollars more or less than last year. And he approves that, and then I can just spend money. And, you know, it's always off a little bit, and that's okay because there's a little bit of wiggle room. But if I want to do something new, then I have to ask for that. So, for example, like what you were talking about, Gloria, doing a raffle for like a speaker or some other fun prize, I want to do something like that this year. And I'm not sure if that's in our budget or not. I got to find out, because it's one of these things like, if I want like $50, no problem. But if I want $500, that's more problematic. I still might be able to get it, but I don't know.
And I mean, for me, I don't. I have $0. It's been made clear to me. I mean, we had to cut 30 grand from our periodicals budget this past year, so asking for money for things doesn't go very far unless it's actually a necessity. So I've had to get creative in a lot of ways. I mean, we still have things that we're working with from the past that we've used. I mean, I think they spent money a few years ago on branded pens and pencils, which are like, it's our giveaway items is basically pens and pencils, and that's about it. But in other ways, I have been doing some creative things where we've been trying to entice students, like currently right now, and I actually partnered with our campus activities and student leadership and got money from them, sponsoring a program for what our Pioneer Appreciation Week. That's our mascot, the Pioneer, where every entities on campus participate in like a appreciation program. So some put out like coffee and donuts or candy and stuff like that. I didn't have a budget for any of those things, so we've actually designed an in-library escape room, and we are raffling off opportunities for students to have their friends come and participate in it and compete in it. So it didn't cost us any money. We did it all in-house, budget-wise. We've been promoting it through social media. And in order to enter the raffle, the students have to complete a resources and services quiz from our homepage. So it's a little 6-question quiz asking them, you know, how can they, if the library doesn't have something, what process do you use to get it? And, you know, and it's multiple choice. So some of them are like, ask Google or interlibrary loan, or, you know, go to the bookstore. So it's dual purpose. It gets people familiarized with some of our resources and services, and it's a fun little thing for them to do without having cost us anything. So that's what I'm working with right now. I am hoping that the more and more increase we have with the students, we'll actually get some budgeting things to use.
That's such a great idea, this idea of escape room, and it brings up how you know, libraries we're doing so many things that people who are not librarians wouldn't normally expect us to do. For example, last year we had some new cookbooks, so I led a cooking class in one of the little campus kitchens, just based on what students can make in their dorm microwaves. Now, when I did that, I looked at it as a form of outreach, not only because I love cooking, but also because I think this is a way to get students who might normally not come to the library, make them more aware of what kind of services we offer. I did, however, encounter some pushback from other people on campus, mostly saying, but that's not what a library does. Escape room, and Gloria and Kate, feel free to jump in as well. Did you experience any pushback from elsewhere on campus or even within the library itself?
Sure. There we go. I thought it was muted. No, actually, the way I did it, as I actually designed it as a staff development tool within the library first. So I had our during our professional development weeks that we have in the library with just the library staff and librarians, So I did them first as a staff development tool, as team building exercises. So once they all did them and everybody had a blast, they asked for me to design another one. So I did that, and it's been, the biggest problem is being trying to extend it out to the students because of the limitations. One, it's like it's in a library room, so scheduling is a bit of an issue, and two, it's like you can only have 5 or 6 people at a time, so you can't open it up to the entire campus all at once, first come first serve type thing. So it's been very strategic in how I'm trying to develop it, and also include elements in it that are library related. So it's fun, but it's teaching at the same time. So I've been working with our instruction librarians on things that I can include in it that are kind of puzzles and riddles related to the library and library instruction. And so once we tie all those things together, it works very well, and we've gotten a lot of positive support from everybody in-house. And I get Campus Activities loved it, and they actually offered to give us money to have a pizza party and food for the raffle winners who participate in it. So we actually got budget money that I didn't realize was going to be there. So that was a nice little bonus.
Excellent. I'm so glad that went so amazingly well.
Yes.
And you've inspired me to maybe try that myself. Kate and Gloria, have you ever tried something that maybe was not traditionally library stuff, and then how was that taken by the rest of campus?
Well, so we have a therapy dog program, which is super, super popular. And we'd never had one on campus before. And I think there was a little bit of pushback of, this is very complicated and we're not sure we want this on our campus at all. I was trying to go about it very officially and seek permission and fill out appropriate forms. And so I was going through student life procedures, because they have very precise things that you do if you're bringing a performer to campus. But that was clearly not the route to take. We ended up just sort of, we won a small contest actually that was held on the campus to bring a program to students. And, I didn't get permission to suggest that we have therapy dogs. I just said, what if we did? And people liked the idea. So we got $1,000, and that launched our first year of programming. We used it to buy food mostly because the dogs are volunteers. And I think that in library land, we know that therapy dogs are very much a library program, but I think that not necessarily everyone immediately equates. They're like, dogs in the library, that's terrible. But I think they really like it now. Everyone on campus really enjoys it. So that's something. I really like the idea of an escape room. That sounds really cool. Or I've toyed with the idea of doing our library is very crunched for space. So I thought about doing an after hours, murder mystery sort of thing. It is because we're a contained space and we're spread out across one whole floor, but it's a really weirdly shaped building. I thought it would be kind of an interesting thing. And then you have the sort of exclusivity of being in the library after hours, which some people like.
Out of curiosity, how late is your library open, Kate?
Most weekdays were open until 11.
Okay, so this is really a late.
It would be a very late night if we did it. We close at 9 on Fridays and 6 on Saturdays, so that could be an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, freshmen don't always sleep anyway, so it works well, and it keeps them from doing possibly other things, which is usually good. Gloria, what about you?
Well, I was just thinking, the one thing I had some, not pushback, but yeah, kind of, I outreach to our K-12. So we have a program on campus through our undergraduate studies called Compact for Success. And it was a way, I think it's maybe 15 years old now. but it was a way to get more of a diverse student population here on campus. So if they participate from 7th grade through 12th, and there are some requirements they have to meet, they're automatically given a space here at San Diego State. And so I worked with the librarians at the schools. I don't know, California is like 49th as far as school librarians or something. It's really horrible. And so I wanted to, I had a couple of workshops with the library and school media people and asked them how the library, our library, could better prepare students for the rigors of that they would encounter once they got to the university. And so from that, I invited through this program that's already established, Compact for Success, we decided to have 10th graders come to campus and they would come to the library. And I got our undergraduate studies librarian involved. And we did sort of a mock informational literacy session for the students. So we had 10 visits of 10th graders, like 100 per visit. And Rubio's, we have this fast food place, Rubio's, the owner is a graduate of San Diego State. So he provided the lunch for the students and they would come to the library. Compact for Success would talk to them. Our EOP would come into the library and speak with them, kind of recruiting for when they got here at the university. And then we would do a couple of sessions. We give them a tour of the library. We are food-friendly library, so they would go down to the food-friendly areas and have their lunch, come back up, and we close out. And we did an assessment of how the experience was for them and everything. So you can imagine, 100 10th grade students in the library. But after a while, people really became more, it was like they expected the students, and they were never nasty with the students or anything like that. It was just the idea of, okay, all these high school students in the library. But it's really, and this is our second year doing it, and it's really been a very successful program.
Excellent, and a great way to reach out to the broader community as well. That's
exactly
really great. So on that, did anybody have anything else they wanted to add on that? So on that topic, since we know that library outreach is, it's broader than what many of our stakeholders might think, does anyone have a mission statement for outreach that they have for their library?
I have a mission statement. I don't have a webpage yet, but I do have a mission statement. And here on our campus, I also work with underrepresented, what is it called? I call them like special populations, like the veterans on campus. They are, when they go through their general studies classes, I'm their contact, and I'm usually the one who will provide instruction. The athletic department, Summer Bridge, Outward Bound students who are high school students, and they come on campus during the summers. Transfer students, we have a pretty large transfer and international student population. So that's all under the umbrella. And as it expands, other people in the library have taken over some of those responsibilities as well. And that's in addition to the orientations in the beginning of the year in fall and spring.
Brilliant. Kate or Gary, do you have a mission statement?
I don't have specifically a mission statement for outreach in general. Our libraries, I was actually on the committee that did our strategic planning a few years ago. So our strategic plan actually has a specific goal directed directly at outreach. And it's kind of been I guess it was the formation of the outreach position was based upon it. It's basically establishing a communication strategy, tailoring it to each stakeholder group, articulating the values, fostering collaboration, things like that, just kind of building a campus community, within the library or with the library. So it, not really a general mission statement for the position, just general for the library in general, which I'm supposed to be leading the efforts on and coordinating the efforts on. And then we have our liaison program, which is I'm transitioning it from, which is actually just a presentation at a conference on. I'm transitioning it from our collection development program, because I don't know about anybody else, but our liaison program has traditionally always been within resource management, used as a collection development tool to work with the academic programs on building our collection of resources. And we've just recently transferred the liaison program from resource management to our access and information services division under the coordination of the outreach librarian. So now, instead of being directly focused on collection development, CD is actually going to be a part of the liaison program, but it's going to be built upon engagement. So we're going to be kind of using the liaison program as collection development and outreach and engagement all comprehensively. So I've been redesigning the program and mission and values in that aspect.
Can I ask if we can go around and who exactly are your stakeholders, and give me your school again, because I came in late and so I missed that, if that's okay.
I can start. I'm Gary Marks from William Patterson University. My stakeholders are anybody who's affiliated with the university and in Northern New Jersey, because we're also open to the public. So anyone and everyone.
Okay.
I'm at Emerson College in Boston, and it's the Emerson students, staff, faculty, mostly the students. When I talk about outreach, those are the people I'm usually focusing on, but there's a little faculty and staff outreach as well. We are unfortunately a closed library. Like, we have a consortium that our members can use, and so we do have some services for those folks, but members of the public cannot use our library at this time.
And then you know me, I'm Anna, again, from Granby University in Des Moines, Iowa. We are a very small private school. We're also a Danish Lutheran school. So we have the normal stakeholders like university administration, faculty, staff, students, but we're also, we hold the archives for the Danish American Museum here. So they are one of our stakeholders. We also have a very in-depth embedded librarian program in our Core 1 classes, which is the course that freshmen have to take their first semester. I'm with those classes anywhere from 3 times that semester up to 10 times. And most of those freshmen are required to meet with me at least once over the course of the semester. So my fall semesters are pretty insane, but that program is a significant stakeholder for the library, because that is how our students find the library, is really through that class.
What school? What is your name of your school?
Me, I'm Anna. I'm on the committee, and I'm at
right, but I'm in your school.
I'm at Grandview University in Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay.
Did anybody have anything else they wanted to add? So excellent. So particularly with things like liaison program, building on those opportunities that are already there are so helpful. So much easier than building something from scratch. Definitely. So we have time for about one more question, and then I'll open it up to whatever else people want to discuss. One thing I've seen a lot, particularly as an instructional librarian, but I think all librarians encounter this, is that since we work at universities, we're working with a lot of people who are familiar with research, obviously. Oh, Gloria, do you mind putting your microphone on mute?
Yeah.
Thank you. So we work with a lot of people who are very familiar with research, who, they've accomplished a lot to get where they are, and they're wonderful resources for us as librarians and for students. But sometimes there's that attitude, since they have accomplished so much, that they know how to do what librarians do perhaps better than we do, particularly when it comes to working with their students. Now, these people are also significant stakeholders, and they can be wonderful advocates for us to their students and also to other faculty members. So is there a way, any methods that you have to working with faculty members who maybe have this attitude, or is this maybe something you have not encountered at your institutions?
I can speak to this a little bit because it's uh, been a very long road for us. So before I ever came to Emerson, they had started this very interesting little program for faculty members called the Information Literacy Collaborative. And this was a big deal program. It doesn't even technically fall under my purview. It's run by the instruction team, I guess you would say, teaching and learning team. And it is a 3-day workshop that they hold in the summer for faculty. It's paid. They give them a small stipend for attending. And when they first started it, it was about teaching faculty about what learning outcomes are and why that is a thing you should have in general, and then how to apply that to information literacy. And over the years, like learning outcomes have become like very much part of the parlance, and they're very common now, and so we don't really have to teach them how to do that anymore. But because it's established as this sort of pedagogical resource, and it became a place for faculty to talk to each other about their teaching, which they really, really like to do, and felt like they just didn't have an opportunity to do so, and to have it be paid was great. So that really built a lot of goodwill. And that led to another faculty program that we do, which is not as expensive. And it's actually, I think, a much better gateway for a college trying to build this sort of relationship, which is we provide the space for a sort of course prep fair for the faculty. We call it the Course Design Spa. And the faculty member can come in and they can meet with us, of course, a librarian, but they can also meet with someone from the writing tutor office, or student accessibility services, or the counseling center, service learning, the people who manage our course management system, which we call ITG. So it becomes this sort of fair, and they originally were not coming for the librarians. They were there to learn about how to run their new course management software and how to handle difficult conversations in the classroom around diversity and inclusion, and how to deal with if they had a student who needed a special accommodation. That's the things that they were originally really coming for. But now it's become like this festival. Everybody wants to do it, and then they sign up to talk to the librarians. And that, I think, has really kind of, again, this sort of, initially there wasn't much payoff. We were just building goodwill. So this is a project that our assessment has been multi-year in trying to, just demonstrate our value to them. We're not just a space, but initially that's what we were offering, was a space.
Excellent. I think that also speaks to one of our earlier discussion points about assessment, and how sometimes building goodwill, which can be kind of hard to measure in terms of assessment, is an excellent side effect in and of itself. So that's a wonderful idea. I might steal that. I especially like the name Course Design Spa. Gary and Gloria, what do you think?
Well, I think we're kind of lucky here. I'm not sure exactly what the situation is at each of your institutions, but I know it's not the same everywhere. But I mean, we are tenure track faculty librarians here, so it definitely. I know with my other colleagues in the state that are at other schools where it's not the case, they express that same type of thing where sometimes the faculty aren't giving them their full attention, I guess I could put it. But we've been very lucky here, and our librarians are very active in terms of faculty requirements. We usually always have a member on the Faculty Senate Executive Board, and our librarians chair. I currently chair one of the Faculty Senate councils, and there's other librarians. They all chair councils. So we're very embedded within the faculty consortia here. And that's one of the best ways that we've been able to work with the faculty on equal ground. You know, we take an active role in the developing of our university core curriculum. We have a number of the librarians who are liaisons to the academic departments who actually participate in curriculum review. So we definitely play a large role in those things, and we emphasize a lot accreditation. Because we know when departments and things, when they want to change curriculum or when accreditation comes up, that the library resources and services are an aspect. And if we just had a recent department who's trying to change their curriculum and change their goals, and they didn't make us aware that all of a sudden it came back and they're like, what do you mean you haven't talked to the library about, are there even support services or materials to support the academic program you're proposing here? And they're like, like we didn't even know to ask. And we're like, we tell everybody. And sometimes we find like we're sending notices and materials out and we're getting the same response that we do from like students in classes where they're not reading the emails. But it's definitely, when we emphasize those type of things, we definitely get the feedback from the faculty to understand the importance of what we do and how we can benefit their coursework and their programs. We have an extensive collection of courses that we embed ourselves into in building LibGuides and instruction. And a number of our librarians are also teaching faculty. I teach in the political science department and law. So it's also a good way where we're seen as colleagues, even within the departments, somewhat.
And we're sort of like at Gary, we're like that. We are really, really strong in faculty governance on our campus. Librarians are, and we are tenure track as well. They come to us when they propose new curriculum, and we have a really strong presence of LibGuides. We also have a textbook rentals here, where students can check out textbooks for our undergraduate level classes, 100 and 200 level. We have 26 librarians here at San Diego State. So each librarian liaises with different departments, colleges. So we have a strong presence on our campus. As in at your university, we're part of Senate. We have librarians, 2 librarians on Senate Exec. We have librarians who chair Senate committees. And we also have a strong presence with academic affairs and student affairs. So we're pretty heavily involved with campus activities as well.
Excellent. What I hear from each of you is that not only are you benefiting from that institutional role that you play, but also finding out what faculty and staff need and offering it. Like that's so important. And at Grandview we're so small, and we are academic staff. We're not faculty. So basically, as academic staff, we just do everything that faculty do and everything that staff do, and just go to a lot of meetings. Basically, it's kind of how it translates. So one thing that I found that helped me with our faculty, and our faculty are lovely, they're wonderful, and they really are so capable. It's not like they're bullies and don't know what they're talking about. They're just wonderful people, but I also want them to recognize the library is so important. I came into this position last year expecting to offer a lot of information literacy instruction and reference assistance, and while I do that, I'm offering classes I never anticipated teaching. For example, earlier today, I was teaching basic website design. I didn't know how to do that a year ago, but that's what our education department needed. So I spent a couple of days figuring out how to design a website because that's what they wanted. And now we have a presence in the education classes that we did not have a couple years ago. So really just that flexibility and seeing yourself as someone of service, I find kind of transforms other people into advocates for the library. So we have a few minutes left. I just want to open it up to anything else you want to share about advocacy or outreach in general. Anything you're excited about with coming up with your own job. Whatever you would like to talk about. Let's take about 5 minutes and we can just chat about whatever.
So I'm really excited about this program that I'm starting for this semester. It's a library bingo. So we have like a little bingo card. It's modeled on the like the Read Harder lists. I don't know if you've ever seen these, like Book Riot or the Modern Mrs. Darcy Challenge, where you are supposed to read like a certain number of books in the year that like meet certain criteria. Like read a book by an author who was, born before 1980, or, read a book where all of the protagonists are women, or something like that. So there's a lot of those sorts of things. But for this, I wanted to make it about like, what are some of the services that we have that our users maybe don't know about. So there's a different version for staff, faculty, and students. And so there's things on here like take a librarian out to coffee, and use the chat reference service, to try and let people know about things that they maybe didn't know we had, and hopefully get them more engaged. Because I feel like I have so many administrators who are like, oh, I love the library. And I'm like, really? Because I never see you here.
I just wanted to kind of ask a question and get a little feedback. Especially, I mean, Gloria, you mentioned you kind of work with a lot of the academic, the student groups side of things, like student affairs and things. And we have liaisons for all of our academic programs, and I'm this sole liaison to what we used to call non-academic, which I label co-curricular and extracurricular. But building a foundation in that area, because it's such a large population, what your experience has been in trying to foster relationships with a lot of those different groups and clubs and organizations and campus units, because they're typically outside of what's been the traditional library experience of resource. You come there for books and stuff when you're doing papers and research and instruction. So what's been your take and best practices, I guess, for trying to work with those areas?
The best practices for me is face-to-face. I'll send an email, introduce myself. I'm Gloria. I'm the outreach librarian. I'd like to work with your organization, or I'd like to work with transfer students, or I give them an idea of what we have in the library. I'd like to introduce students to how to identify databases. We have LibGuides, which are like our mapping guide to what we have in the library on different topics. And I have just been overwhelmed with the response from them. It's just that good old fashioned, when I have a meeting with you, let's go to coffee. And they're really excited about anything that will help our students become more engaged or to help them succeed. It makes them look good. We have a real good balance of connecting and partnering and collaborating with our student affairs and academic affairs. Even as the campus on the whole, academic affairs is becoming more involved with student affairs. We have our residence hall students come into the library at the beginning of the year for an instruction session. Our digital technologies librarian and our undergraduate studies have, they've developed this mobile tour of the library. And this year they went a step further and did a video of our library. So we have available that they can come in for tours, or they can participate online or that way as well. So like I said, I just went through our catalog and went into student affairs, wrote down all the auxiliary departments, if you want to call it that, and connected with the director of those departments. And now that it's becoming a little overwhelming, other people in the library are kind of taking over some of the things, but that was pretty much what I did.
Excellent. Is there any other final thoughts from anyone? Well, it was a pleasure talking to you all today. This was recorded, so it will be available on our YouTube site. In early March, the committee is also offering another discussion section on planning outreach on a budget or no budget. Just like this time, there will be 3 different sections, and you're welcome to join one or all 3, whatever you like. And yeah, once again, it was just such a pleasure talking to you. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and in your many different places, I hope that the weather is as okay as it will be at this time of year.
Well, it's 79 here, so it's pretty good. Oh, and maybe this is off, but as co-facilitator, what was I doing? I was taking notes, but is there anything else I'm supposed to be?
We can actually, if
We
you
can
want to
discuss
hang out,
that.
yeah, if you want to hang
Okay.
out for a few minutes, then we will chat about
Okay.
what to do. All right, Kate and Gary, it was so wonderful meeting you, and have a great.
It was great meeting you guys.
Bye-bye. So, okay, so co-facilitator. Yeah, I think we had some technical difficulties because I
Yeah.
sent out the link twice, and the first
I had
time-
the same difficulty yesterday, and I actually had our IT person in here the entire time, and it took me 15 minutes. So it's on my end. I'm not sure what's going on,
Okay.
but something is happening.
Yeah, I know that the committee has had problems in the past. I don't know if the problems were like this, so I'll make sure to mention that to
Okay.
the chairs. Okay, so actually, I'm gonna stop recording.